and welcome to the first edition of Race Talk Live's Shop Talk. We're out here at my house, the 12G shop. This is the shop where we work on all the stuff, and Jeremy Petty is here with us tonight. Bobby's on board as usual. We're going to do this through the winter every other Tuesday. Probably start back up after Christmas, Bobby, and you ready to go?
Let's do it.
You ready?
I know this. Everybody hates wintertime because naturally we aren't getting to do no racing, but we'll try to make it through the winter with something like this. So let's go for it.
All right, we're going to do it. We're going to look for some sponsors and stuff like that. Jeremy Petty's been gracious enough to join us tonight. He doesn't have a microphone in front of him yet, but we're going to fix that.
You know, we didn't get him over all summer long, and then we wait till it gets freezing cold out to invite Jeremy over.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, buddy.
Yeah. And you know, and this is the second attempt at doing this because unfortunately I ended up in the hospital a couple of Tuesdays ago, but Jeremy's been gracious enough to come back over. He's got lots of racing stuff we're going to visit with him about, check with his plans and so on for next year and see where he's going to go. I know he's working on several different things. We, you know, in our radio show, we didn't cover the results from around the area towards the end of the season as far as Salina's two-day show. Unfortunately, Thunder Hill got rained out, and so did RPM Speedway in Hayes.
Boy, that RPM Speedway, we, you know, the weather on Saturday or Friday or Saturday. What day we go out there? Friday? Friday. Yeah, it rained on Thursday night.
Yep.
And shoot, Friday was beautiful weather. So we loaded up the sport mod and headed out there and pulled in the pit area, and there was tons of race cars there. And oh boy, we went and seen the racetrack. And if you guys weren't there, they had to cancel. There was they were going to be another 2 days. They had a bulldozer out.
And I heard they got the bulldozer stuck
off the racetrack, and they had big. Oh, it was. I don't think I've ever seen a racetrack so muddy.
You know, they tried hard. They were going to take it and turn it from a 2-day show into a 1-day show. They had cars there.
Oh, there was cars from everywhere there.
Yeah.
And they had a good turnout.
Ended up then having to cancel it. You know, I didn't get it there, but I understood the bulldozer got stuck. I know the road grader got stuck, and it was just a mess. And once you get to that point, you got to throw in the towel.
Poor Rod and the guys. I mean, like I say, they worked their butt off trying to get her done, and I mean they went clear up till I don't know, probably 11 o'clock that morning, 11:30, and finally seen that things weren't going to happen, and so he ended up having to cancel, which was too bad. Like I say, it was going to be a good show.
And then, Bobby, as we were talking, Thunder Hill got rained out too. They started the show, cars were there as well, and it looked good, but there was this one big red dot on the radar, and it just came from the north to the south and covered them up, and they were done. And they didn't run it again. They canceled. Poof, done.
And, you know, I feel so sorry for Mike and Pam because they scheduled that race earlier in the summer than in the past, just so they could, you know, kind of beat the weather, and they didn't get her done.
We've both been there when it's so terrible cold you can't stand it, you know, and poor guys racing it. I've raced in it when it was so terrible cold you couldn't get out of the car.
And their pit area, you know, if it gets a little damp, I mean, it gets slick, and I think that was the biggest trouble was the pit area.
And I think as it was, they were there till Sunday pulling guys out of it anyhow.
They had trucks and trailers stuck in there, and gosh, what a mess.
Salina was the one that got their 2-day show in.
They got to race, yep.
Not a bad show.
It went all right. Of course, I mean, it was the Jordan Grabowski show again.
Yeah, I know.
Gosh, that guy, I don't know, he's got that modified series figured out. Jordan's fast.
He's fast. Driving a GRT. He
went down to Las Vegas.
The Duel in the Desert.
We watched that, and he come from, I think he started like the 5th row and ended up running second behind his teammate Terry Phillips, which Terry got in on Thursday night. The first night, gave up his spot.
Yeah, he got in the first night and gave it up. Wanted to try again.
Yeah, they was interviewing him there, and he said he was in Las Vegas, so why not do a little gambling? And so he gave up his spot, thought he could do a little better the next night, and came back, and of course he did. got started on the second row, and once he got in the lead, he pretty much checked out. But pretty good racing down there.
Yep. We'll switch to NASCAR for a few minutes here. We've covered all the stuff around as far as dirt goes. Of course, we have Jeremy Petty with us, but you and I talked throughout the year about the new points chase, the challenge system that NASCAR came up with.
Yep. What'd you think? I got to ask you.
I hated it when it first came out. I couldn't do the math and make it come out right. I couldn't do it. I tried, but you know what? The final race at Homestead was probably one of the best races of the season. Really.
I know. I heard a lot of pros and cons, about it. Myself, I loved it. I mean, you came down to the very end when you had 4 guys going for the Sprint Cup championship that have never won it before. So you were going to have a first-time winner. And to have, of course, Kevin Harvick, he had a good season all along. He had fast cars and was capable of winning the whole deal. And then you had Ryan Newman, which was kind of the underdog, which never won a race, but yet he was consistent every week and made it in. Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano, both had won a lot of races, but I think it worked out perfect. You could have had, of course, A.J. Allmendinger, first-time winner, made it into the chase. The way they did it, I liked it.
I liked it. I liked it, and that was good racing. That wasn't points racing. That was racing for the win, and it was fun to watch. And that was it right there. It wasn't points racing anymore. It was racing for the win.
Racing for the win.
And I personally was rooting for Newman just because I thought he was the underdog in the whole thing.
Yeah.
Harvick had fast cars, and he'd won some races and fairly dominant. Go ahead.
We took it down to was it Arizona or the Phoenix race was the one right before,
right,
when Newman kind of had to shove Kyle Larson out of the way.
He used him up
and knocked Jeff Gordon out. Kyle Larson's going to get his shot.
Yeah,
but
he will.
Newman,
he's a kid. He's young.
Newman knew he had to do what he had to do and had to have that spot, and so he went for it.
And that was good racing. Rubbing is racing, it happens.
And you also take, going back to the Nationwide Series, having an 18-year-old kid, Chase Elliott, winning the points deal. What a great deal. That was so cool to see him celebrate, in victory lane there at the end. He ended up running second, I believe, at Homestead.
Yep.
And ended up winning the deal, and it was cool.
Well, let's get Jeremy's input on that. What did you think of the new format?
I hated it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm on the opposite side of you two guys. Just as far as I can possibly be.
Why is that?
Yeah, because you're not crowning a champion of the season. You're crowning a champion for that race.
Point well taken. I understand.
The way it's set up, if say I could. However many races are in the chase, I don't even know, 15 or whatever it is. So I could win. The way it's set up, I could win 14 races of the chase, going to the last one. And on the very first lap, the guy in front of me could blow his motor. I could run through his oil, wreck. Somebody else wins that race. And then even though I won 14 of the 15 races, I wouldn't be the champion. That's not right.
Okay, but then
Right.
you go along the season, you've never won a race.
True.
And all of a sudden, you get in the chase and you win one. You're going on.
But you just won that one race.
Okay.
You just won the last race. You're still not.
Okay.
it's
So you'd rather
still-
be
I
you'd
wanna
rather
see
be
the
out
guy-
than in.
I want to see the guy that does good and outruns everybody, whether he wins a race or not. I want to see the guy that outruns and performs all year long than the guy that just happens to win the last race.
Was Kevin Harvick not fast all year?
He was.
And who won?
Harvick won, and it worked out. But if Gordon, and it worked out this year, and I'm not saying that it wasn't a good race, but the way that this point system is set up, they're crowning the champion of the last race, not the champion of the season. Because if Gordon would have won that last race, then people would be going nuts right now.
Not as much so as if Junior would have won.
Well, yeah, Junior's a fan favorite, of course, but he struggles. But tell me this: did we not see some of the best racing we've ever seen in NASCAR this year?
Oh, it was great, and the deal at Phoenix was great. When he body slammed Larson, I thought that was hilarious. But I would have done the same thing. You got to do, you gotta do what you got to do with the system that's set out in front of you. You don't have a choice. Whether you like it or not doesn't matter. You put they give you the sandbox and you got to go play in that sandbox.
That's right.
I don't like it.
And the amount of pressure on the guys this year seemed like it was way, way higher than it has been in the past because of the system.
Oh, absolutely. And it made for great race, and the TV ratings were up.
The fans are loving it. Yeah, the fighting in Texas.
About it and calling into the radio shows, and it's all good stuff, and it makes for good TV. And I can't argue any of those points. The thing that I don't like about it is, no matter all those points aside, no matter how you shake it down, you're still crowning the champion of one race, not the champion of the season, and that's what I don't like about it.
Yeah.
Rumor has it that the 48 team got called into the hauler, and this is strictly, I don't know enough, but rumor has it that the 48 team was called into the hauler because they told those guys during the last set of caution laps to let those 4 guys go and not race with them. Do you believe that happened?
I believe that there's a lot of stuff that goes in on that hauler that we don't know about.
Way to not answer the question, but do you
go to NASCAR races? You don't.
Okay. If that happened, what does that say about NASCAR racing though? If they really said that,
it put on a good race, didn't it? Put on a good show.
We saw some of the best racing all season long. And if that did happen, and I don't want to put you on the spot any further, if that did happen, shame on NASCAR, because it's racing. And then if that did happen, that leads me to believe that your theory is correct, that you're only awarding the winner of that race the championship.
Right. Well, I'll ask you this: why did the 24 pit at the end of the race?
Don't know.
There you go.
Okay, works for me. What do you think, Bobby?
I don't know either. I mean, I don't remember which race it was, but there was a time that I know Junior was involved, and Gordon, I believe, and Junior was already in. Gordon needed to win, and Junior went ahead and outran him and didn't let him in. So, I mean, I know Hendricks puts his foot down about the racing. I mean, all 4 of them, go for what they can get.
I think this was probably Junior's best season ever.
Yeah.
But he's still come up short. I know, I don't know.
Yeah. And I liked his comment, I think it was during the Texas race when the big fight was going on, and they interviewed Junior, and he said, the chase is working.
Giving them what they wanted. All right, Jeremy, we'll go on past that now, and let's talk about Jeremy Petty and what you have going on. You're selling pit boxes, pitboxes.com, and you're selling other parts and stuff. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm the Midwest distributor for pitboxes.com, so that's a large part of what I do, and then I own Billet Race Products, so don't really do any of the dirt stuff because, as you guys know, I did a lot of asphalt racing for a long time, so the majority of my Billet Race Product stuff is probably 95% for asphalt late models, so that doesn't really apply to anything around here, mainly selling suspension components for asphalt late models, Panhard bar adjusters, sway bar adjusters, stuff like that. So most of that stuff ships out to left-hander chassis, Port City chassis, Grand American race cars, stuff like that. But the pit boxes, you guys see those all around. There was a bunch of them out at the Duel in the Desert. A bunch of those guys run that stuff. Masters built, those guys got them, and a lot of the dirt guys run the boxes. So we went to just got back from PRI. We were up there with the pit boxes, and we went up to the Heartland show up at Des Moines with the pit boxes. And so we do a lot of traveling, especially this time of the year. It's kind of the off season for racing, but this is trade show time. So we go up to the Heartland show, and then I went up to do the PRI. And the last couple of years went down and done the trade show down at the Chili Bowl. I haven't decided for sure if I'm going to go down there yet or not this year. So it's kind of what we do in the off season. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do racing wise for the next year.
You know, Jeremy, we were talking a little bit ago about going to the PRI show and you having a booth set up there. And tell the folks for those of us that don't ever get to go to that show, how big is that thing? I mean, I know it's huge. It's everybody talks about going to it, and
It is.
Tell us a little bit about it.
It's big, and you should go to it. I mean, if you race and you're serious about racing, you need to go to the PRI show. Everybody is there. I mean, everybody in the racing industry is there. If you want to talk to somebody from Willwood Brakes, they're there. You know, the people that actually build the brakes, the specialists, whether you're in road racing, Trans Am, if you're a dirt car guy. I mean, if you have a question about brakes and you want to talk to, it doesn't matter if you want to talk to Willwood or Performance Friction or Brimbro, they're all there, and they have their road race. Okay. And they have their road race experts there, or their dirt track experts are there, or their asphalt late model guys, they're all there. So you can talk to the people that you need to talk to for that specific product. They're all there. And it doesn't matter, you know, what product it is. I mean, everything from go-karts to Indy cars to drag cars, off-road racing. It's huge. I've been going to it for every year. I think every year for the last probably 13, 14 years I've been PRI. You
know, I've heard stories that this thing is so big that a guy can't go and see everything in one day.
Not if you're going to stop and talk to people. If you're going to stop and talk to people, you cannot see the whole show in 3 days. It was in Indianapolis. They outgrew Indianapolis back when when they had the RCA Dome there. So they moved it down to Orlando, and they expanded the trade show area in Indy. Then they moved it back to Indy. They've already outgrown that again. It's massive. I don't know for sure how many booths are there. I know that the trade show area in Orlando is 1 million square foot under one building.
Wow.
And I think when we left Indy, I don't know, at one of the times we were down there in Orlando, we probably had 80% of that 1 million square foot filled with just racing stuff. It's not passenger car vehicles. It's not rims and you know, headlights and stuff. It's only racing industry stuff that's there.
And you know, we talk about trade shows going on during the wintertime, and you mentioned the Chili Bowl, which is coming up here in the middle of January. That's another thing that's getting to be huge, and it's kind of getting close to outgrowing its space also.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where I don't know where they're going to park all those guys. You know, I mean, I used to go to the Chili Bowl, 10 years ago, and there was, 70 cars, and we thought that was a lot of cars. Now there's 150 midgets, and it runs for, is it 5 days?
5 days, yep. 5 days.
It's like, that building's only so big. Where are they going to put all those cars? And they sell it out every year. I mean, if they had a bigger building to put it into, I think more people would go. But you can't get tickets. You go down there, you can't get in.
I know it. Yeah.
So
it's
an awesome show.
And they've gotten to where, they sell tickets to people that are renewing their tickets clear back in like June. I think we had to put our money in for our tickets, and
even if when you go down there as a vendor, so if I get a 10 by 20 booth or something and take my pit boxes down there, I still don't get in to go to the races.
Really?
Yeah, that just gets you in the door to get into your booth. That doesn't get, because there's no extra tickets, there's no extra passes, so you still have to buy tickets if you want to go to the races, but there's no tickets to buy.
Yeah,
they're sold out. So they've done a great job down there with that thing.
It's pretty.
I'll hand this back to you here real quick. It's December 16th. We're going to air this thing hopefully a little later on tonight. you have got to get going with what Jeremy Petty does in his racing. We've got Speed Weeks coming up in February. You're going to head for Daytona. You've got to start making some decisions on what's involved for you next year. So what are your thoughts? Where are you going to race? What are you going to do?
Yeah, we kind of chatted about this a little bit before we started. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do, and a lot of that falls back to, and I know there's a lot of stuff that goes into running a racetrack and being a promoter and all that stuff, but a lot of the guys around here haven't announced stuff, so I don't know what NCRA is going to do next year. I don't know what Salina Speedway is going to do, and Hayes and Topeka. The schedules aren't out. So really, until those guys put that out there and get their schedules out, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. We've got some sponsorship in place to do some dirt racing. We got a couple late models sitting there. We're not sure if we're going to go the open motor route or, the crate racing seems to be gaining a lot of traction. Of course, you always hear guys talking that there's going to be more crate races the next year, but until you see that on the schedule, you don't know that that's actually going to be the case. And so you don't want to, I like to travel. I like to go. I don't like to race one track every week. That's not something that really appeals to me. I like to go to different places. So until I see a schedule that there's more than one track that I can go to, the crate thing doesn't really appeal to me. It doesn't really appeal to me anyway. But if there's not going to be an open motor outlet, then you kind of go to the crate race. But if there's just going to be one track to go crate racing, then I'd rather stay with the open motor stuff and maybe, maybe we go travel and go Mars racing or go MLR racing, or maybe not run for points, maybe just jump around here or there. So I'm really not sure. We're going to go late model racing somewhere. I don't know what that's going to be. I'll be down in Speed Weeks. I'm going to be spotting for somebody in the ARCA race, and then from there, hopefully trying to put together a deal to drive a couple races, a couple ARCA races, but that's all sponsorship contingent, so you never know. That's always up in the air. That's always 50-50. That takes a lot of money, but yeah, I would encourage, the track promoters and everybody to try to get their schedules out sooner. I know it's colder here, and guys don't necessarily have to know right away, but, I talked to a lot of people at PRI, and there's a lot of series and tracks, back east and down south. Their schedules are already out. They're already set. All those guys already know what they're going to do, and my opinion is it puts us guys in the Midwest here, if we're thinking about traveling or thinking about staying closer to home, it kind of puts us at a disadvantage to those guys because they're already getting ready. They know what they're going to do. They're gearing their cars up for it, and we're still sitting here waiting to know, well, what's our home track going to do? Yeah. We don't know.
And, if you're wanting to get an early start on, the summer here, guys do want to go down south and do a little racing. But like you say, if you don't know what you want to do, you kind of hate to spend all your money and throw it all in one basket, and you won't get to
because
run much home.
I kind of know what I want to do, but until some schedules are put out where we can confirm, like, here's our A plan, we're going to run X number of races here, and then if, we're going to try to fit in, maybe 10 supplemental races throughout the year with these guys, but until those schedules are released, until those schedules are put out, we're just kind of stuck waiting. Is kind of where we're at.
Sure, and still trying to maybe put something together where you can get in a truck a couple of times throughout the summer. You think going to try that?
Yeah, there's a guy that I'm working with in the ARCA stuff, and he's also involved with the truck deal. So that's always on the table. That's really the series that I would like to get into and run as much as I can. I ran that truck race a few years ago in Darlington, and that was, I would say that was probably the highlight of my racing career. Darlington, to me, that's the best. I would say maybe if you want to talk about like F1 with the Monaco Grand Prix, but that's way out of my league. But I would definitely drive if somebody wanted me to, but it's pretty unrealistic. So. To me, if there's a one race I could go run in and you could go win, that's the Southern 500. So for me to be able to race and drive at Darlington, that was that was a pretty big deal for me personally. So to get a run, my first NASCAR race and get a run at Darlington, that was a big deal to me. And so, yeah, I'm always trying to find sponsorship to get back in the truck series, but that just takes a lot of money.
What about the Eldora thing on dirt? Would you be interested in doing that? Does that look like fun?
I mean, I would be. It does look like fun, but it's that's probably one of the hardest races to make, to be honest with you, because so many trucks go to run that race. You know, that's actually one of the biggest fields of the year.
Isn't that something how a dirt track can be thrown in there and be one of the biggest races in the NASCAR Truck Series too.
Which I think we would do okay with that. I think I would do good there because I've got those cars. You saw the first year Scott Bloomquist went and run there, and he didn't do terrible. So hot. You can't go. They don't drive like one of these drive.
He was trying to pick the left front up, and that wasn't working.
It doesn't work that way. It's kind of a hybrid. I've driven 3 or I don't know, probably more than that now. Probably 4 or 5 races on between DeCoin and Springfield running the ARCA races.
Okay.
And you basically have to take an asphalt car, or in that case an asphalt truck, and you have to go race it on dirt.
Right.
And they don't allow you to flip the panel bar. You can't put coilovers on them, all that stuff. So you kind of have to have a hybrid driving style. You got to drive it both a little bit like it's an asphalt vehicle and like it's in a dirt vehicle. And so I think I would do well on that. I've got a lot of experience driving the big heavy cars as far as the ARCA cars on the big mile dirt track. So I think it would be a lot of fun, but financially speaking, I think it'd be more realistic to go try to run Darlington again or go to like Bristol or someplace like that, just from a field, making the field.
To me, it looks like the dirt thing, a big shock and spring change is probably the major change on the trucks.
It's more of a it's they run a different course. I know what they're running for setups. I've talked to my buddy. I still got a lot of friends in that truck series. A lot of guys that I used to run ARCA with are now running trucks and nationwide and stuff. So I've talked to them, and they went and did a bunch of testing, and of course they all run dirt cars and stuff too. So when they went and tested, they tried to put the dirt car setups on it, and they said, yeah, that doesn't work. And so,
is it because of the weight of the truck? You think?
The trucks are so
heavy.
You know, they weigh 1,500 to 1,800 pounds more than what a late model runs. You know, those trucks they're 3,500 pounds.
Right.
And the brakes are terrible compared to what those are, and so it just doesn't work, and that's why Bloomquist tried taking the sway bar off of it and all that stuff.
I don't think they're the greatest tire they run on either, is it?
Yeah, it's not a big, wide, soft tire. It's hard and all that stuff. So,
Jeremy, we need to take a quick break here for just a quick second. Oh, okay.
No.
We're still going?
Yeah. No.
We're still going. Okay,
still
sorry
rolling.
about that. Yeah, keep going. Go ahead.
Where were we?
Yeah.
We were going around Eldora, I guess.
Yeah.
To have that first show on that at Eldora for the trucks was a huge fan deal. I mean, got everybody excited, and then the second year came along, and then I believe the third year, and it's a fantastic ride. I love watching it on TV.
I thought it was great. I think that I would like to see not just the truck series, but the nationwide and the trucks, whether it's on dirt or not. I'd like to see some midweek races to get away from competing against us going up against, we race on Saturday nights and Friday nights and stuff, and the same, you guys go out and watch our races, and you work in the pits and you announce, and you're out there, and you guys like to sit and watch the NASCAR races too. So, they're competing for your attention just like they are everybody else's. So I would like to see, it's not practical for them to move all of them to midweek, but move, throw some midweek races in there every once in a while. And I think a lot of people would too.
Yeah. I love it, midweek stuff.
Oh yeah, I think it's great. It gives us an opportunity to actually enjoy it a little bit more.
Makes a long day at work though, because you're sitting there going, God, I wish work was over. I'm gonna go home and watch races.
It does. It does.
Jeremy, let's talk a little bit about your summer last summer. I mean, how you run quite a few shows. How'd your summer go?
It was good and bad. We we went last winter. We went and got a new car, and we just, man, we struggled with it at the start of the year. We could not. I just couldn't get it to go. You know, I couldn't get it to drive like I wanted it to, and we fought it and fought it. And
I think I talked with you.
Yeah.
Right in between all this.
We took it out to Salina once just to test it, you know,
Yeah.
and I'd taken it apart and put it back together, and we took it out there, and I took it apart again and put it back together, and I was so mad with that. And it's not that we were running, just not that we weren't running good. We were running terrible.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I couldn't go anywhere without spinning it out. I couldn't drive it. It was just bad. And so I had taken it apart. I'd spent probably 80 hours out in the shop one week, and we just went through the whole thing. And I'm not exaggerating that time frame. I had been out there all day, all night, all week. Took it down to Wichita, tested it, and it didn't change a damn thing. And I was so mad. And I said, let's load this thing up and get out of here. And so we came home that night, and we were jerking parts off that car. And actually Ryan stopped by and he said, what are you guys doing? I said, I'm done with this thing. I'm going back to that other
Getting
car.
the old one out. Yep.
And so we put it back together, and we tore that thing apart on a Wednesday night and raced the other one on a Thursday. And after we went back to the car that I raced last year, we went back to finishing third and fourth, sixth, and
Isn't that crazy?
And we did just fine, you know.
Yeah.
But 3 races into the season, we were like 15th in points, and then we ended up second. But it took us, we had to dig out of that hole all year long.
Huh.
And I still don't know what was wrong with that car. I haven't yet to figure it out. But so we started off bad the first 3 races. We just were just god awful.
Same brand of car.
Same brand of car, and just it was a couple years newer, and I
Isn't that something?
I couldn't get out of my own way. I have no idea what was going on with it. And we went back to the old car, and I think the first night on it, we finished 5th in Wichita, and then we went up to Belleville and finished 4th, and finished 3rd or 4th over in Hutch. I mean, we just ran off a string of top 5s and top 10s and just ran really well with it. And then I went out a couple times to Salina, and just to change, you know, I totally rebuilt the shocks, all the shocks on the car one night, and put them on there and went out to Salina to see what it would do. And so we went out there a couple times, but you know, we had a good. We ended up good, but we started off bad. And just one of them deals, you
Yeah.
get a new car, it just doesn't work for
Yeah.
you for whatever reason.
So, what's the plans? Are you gonna try it again?
Not with that one. So I've called GRT and talked to them about it endlessly, and it's all put back together and ready to go.
Really?
And I'm going to take it down there, and they're going to go through it. I told them I've
See
done
if
gone
they can
through it
find
enough,
something, huh?
and so they're
Yeah.
going to go through it
Yeah.
and look at it for me.
Okay.
You know, Jeremy, and behind you is a Fagers car that Ryan drives, and he's in the gallery over there giving us facial expressions and stuff, and a Shaw car. And he bought this Shaw car thinking it would be better for him, and struggled with it all year long. Just couldn't get it to go. Ended up having to get back in the old Fagers car, and he did that in a week. And actually had Bobby out here on a Thursday night scaling it at close to midnight. But, you know, what is it about a driver that just can't get comfortable in a new car?
I don't know. I don't think it was a comfortability. You know, I've gotten in and out of a lot of different cars and other people's cars, and I've not the tallest person in the world, so I've actually drove other people's cars with blocks taped on my feet, and I've turned steering wheels around, you know, like unbolted the coupler and flipped it
Yeah.
around so that it
Okay.
would move the steering wheel and stuff, and I've driven NASCAR races with pillows behind the seat covers and blankets underneath to, you know, get me up where I could see. And so usually I can pretty much get in whatever and figure out a way to get it around the track, and I could not with that car. And so I don't know. I'm not saying it wasn't me, because I'm not the greatest driver in the world, but I'm usually not the worst. But I could not. And finally, I just said, I'm done. I'm done with this thing. And I parked it. We pulled the oiling system off of it and pulled the transmission out of it and put it on the other one. And we went to the racetrack and just did fine the rest of the year. So I have no idea. But, yeah, usually I can get into, you know, just about whatever and go run. But that thing was beyond me. So I don't know.
That's crazy.
So I'm going to take it down to them. They're going to help me go through it. And then, like I said, you know, figure it out. And then it's back to the old debate whether you go crate racing or whether you go open racing. And, you know, I still don't know on that one.
We'll go to this then. And you run a Dodge power plant for whatever reason it may well be, but Dodge is notorious for making horsepower, but it's kind of an erratic horsepower. You gonna stay with the Dodge if it stays with an open engine?
Yeah, I'll stay with the Dodge if we stay open. It makes plenty of horsepower for me. It's really the hardest thing about that is actually getting it mounted in the car, because those mounts aren't built for a Dodge motor, and so we have to we got to fabricate our own mounts on the car and fabricate our own mid plate. And if you walk up to my car and you look at it, it looks like my motor actually is set back farther than it's supposed to be when you look at the mid plate, but it's not really. It's my mid plate's actually bent back and forth in like 3 different places just to actually get the motor down in the car. So my mid plate's not straight is why it looks like it's sitting in there funky.
Did you have a hard time getting headers to fit too?
I had to make my own headers.
Did you?
Actually. Yeah, I ordered.
Yeah, I don't think there's many car builders out there that have Dodge wrote on there.
You can order up headers for like a Dodge 318, but the problem is mine is Evernham Dodge, so it ain't a Dodge 318.
Okay.
So we actually had to order. I actually ordered headers for a Chevy, like a Tri-Y, the real wide ones.
Okay.
And then we took and cut the flange off of them, and I had to have 2 flanges CNC made for the ports on my car. And I took a little grinder and ground all the welds off of their tubes so that the tubes were loose. And then we had to mold the tubes.
Oh my God!
You know, I ordered the Chevy headers to fit the late model. And we had to you ground all the welds off to where the tubes were loose, and so then we could put the flange up to the motor, had the motor in there, get that up there. Then we had to turn all the tubes so that the tubes were all sitting in there. Then we had to tack them all in place. Then had to actually weld them in the car so that they would stay. Then pull them out, TIG all the headers back together on both sides.
Oh my gosh!
And we had to do that, for both cars. We had to do that 4 times. It's a nightmare. It's a day. It's an all day. I mean, like from sun up to sundown, it's an all day project.
Building the headers.
Just putting the headers. So the thing is, you got to buy headers, then you got to tear them apart and then rebuild them. It's a nightmare. Yeah, but the motors were bought and paid for, so you kind of got to go that route.
Yeah, you got to do it. Yep. Okay.
Oh, well, sure. I mean, that's a cheap price to pay for an engine that's bought and paid for. So,
we was visiting a little bit ago before the show started. See the new Petty Enterprises going up out there in Smolin, Kansas. Tell us a little bit about that. I'm sure you're looking forward to that being done.
Yeah, it's the weather's not helping us.
Right.
It's a little bit smaller than what I like when you think Petty Enterprises, but it's we're just putting up a new shop. We it's just a little 30 by 40. It's nothing like Ryan's got here. I don't have his kind of budget to work with, but we're just putting up a little 30 by 40 and. But it's eventually it will be attached to the shop I got now, so that's where all my welders and grinders and all that stuff will be in there, and then so the little shop we're putting them now will be just for the race cars, so that's where we'll build the bodies and set them up and all that stuff. So when we're all done and the 2 buildings are connected, it'll be a decent amount of space and be a nice shop. But it's just as soon as we started doing the dirt work, that's when we got all that 2 weeks of rain,
cold weather,
and it shut us down. And then we finally got the dirt work done and got the forms up for the concrete, and we got that 3 weeks of just below freezing single digits, and it was too cold to pour concrete, so we sat there trying to wait for the weather to warm up, and we finally got the concrete poured. So we're hoping here and probably next week we should be able to get the lumber out there and start actually doing some framing.
So you got your dad helping you there in the shop? Got anybody else?
Yeah, during the season I got a couple guys that come up. Casey Budd and Brett Budd, they both live in Newton, actually, and they come up and help me. They went to all the races. Brian Hickman lives in Minneapolis, and Brian's actually been to every race with me for 2 years now. He hasn't missed a single race. And he went when I was running ARCA. Brian went to all the ARCA races with me, changed front tires. I mean, he's been with me for a long time. and does a great job. And my dad goes whenever he can. He's a field service rep, so he works out of town, so he's not always around.
Right.
But whenever he's in town, he goes. And my buddy Kevin just moved back from Indiana, so he goes with me now. And when he can, he's got a couple little kids and stuff. So usually Casey and Brian almost always go with me, with those two guys. And then Brett usually is there, and then my dad goes when he can. So I've got 4 or 5 guys with me that go with me that can't always make it at the same time, but we go and we have fun, and they're a good group of guys. They work really hard. And this year, fortunately, we didn't have to put the car back together too many times. Last year, driver made an error here or there where we had to, kind of rebuild the car a couple times, and that wasn't the greatest. But, we have fun. We usually barbecue and have a good time, if whether we have a good night or not.
Got to ask you about your hauler. I drive by there and says something about learn how to drive this truck or something.
Yeah, not for me.
What's the story on that?
That's the guy I bought it from. We've got about 3/4 of the stickers off of it. We just haven't got the rest of them off of it. And, one of those deals where it's just not a priority.
I see.
We've got most of those stickers off, but not all of them. But, yeah, I don't even drive that thing. I can turn it around in the yard and stuff like that. But Brian drives it, and my dad's got a CDL, and my buddy Kevin Rogers, he's got a CDL. So those 2 guys, those 3 guys, they're the ones that drive in the hauler. I just set in. Unfortunately, they make me pay for all the fuel and stuff like that. But I just set in the passenger seat and just hope we don't get pulled over for something, DOT or something like that.
Yeah, because the DOT pullover is just going to be funds coming out of your wallet, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. So
I don't know where we're at on time. I don't know how long we've been going yet tonight because we got a little late start. So, okay. Let's talk about Jeremy Petty. Your life has changed a little bit at home, too, as well, has it not?
Yeah, a little bit. We had our first kid last year in November, so he's a year old now. And he's running around. He's healthy, and we took him to the first Hutch race, and he likes it. He stands up he likes being outside, so he stands up on the hauler and just, of course, Mom makes him wear the little earmuffs.
Sure, yeah.
And he's not really a fat kid if you see him on Facebook and stuff, but those earmuffs squish his face
I was
together.
going to say, seeing you and your wife, I can't imagine him being fat.
It makes him look like he's really fat, but he just smashes his face together, and she won't take him off at the racetrack. But he just stands up on the hauler and just stands up. He'll stand up there and just watch those cars go round and round and round.
That's cool.
He loves it. He comes out and plays in the shop, and he likes being outside.
So you take him for rides on the go-kart?
I do. That may be an issue.
I was going to say, yeah.
Coming in the
no,
spring,
we don't want
but
to talk about the rest of that.
have
you given him rides?
Oh yeah, he loves it. He loves he likes riding anything. He likes riding on the 4-wheeler, tractors, forklifts, lawnmowers. I mean, anything that's outside and riding, he loves it. He absolutely loves it.
Going to have to keep an eye on the keys then.
Yeah,
huh?
pretty soon stuff will be disappearing out of the driveway. You never know how that happens. Let's talk about your season a little bit further. We'll finish that up. Where'd you finish in points in NCRA? You had a good season there, I think, really.
Yeah, not too bad. We came up a little bit short. We finished second in the points there. Kyle Burke won, and we finished second, and Kratzer finished third. And Chris finished. He had a real good year there, and he finished up. Won quite a few races there at Salina, and he's got that crate deal figured out. I mean, he was running real well. We got him. We usually outran him at the bigger tracks, but he's tough on those 3/8 miles with the. He's got the course. The crate's got those big spoilers and the soft tires, and that's a tough combination. But Chris is fast on those shorter tracks, and. And he's fun to race with. He got to be a friend, and we get along really well, and so it was fun to travel around and race with him. So, but yeah, he finished third, and we got second, and Burke ended up finishing first. So
you got to go back to Belleville this year, and
yeah, I love Belleville.
Race. Have a good time there?
Yeah, that was really the biggest disappointment of the years when we went up there and got rained out, and they didn't reschedule it. That's I wish we raced up there 4 or 5 times a year. I would go up there and race anything. I would race a modified up there, a midget. I mean, if any, I would race anything up there that anybody would let me get in. I love that place. It's a higher bank, faster track. I mean, I know a lot of guys around here think it doesn't seem that fast to me, I guess it would say, because I'm used to the asphalt where, compared to Pocono or Kansas Speedway or something, it's not that fast compared to those places, but it's a lot faster than yeah, I mean, it's not 180 or 200 miles an hour, so but it's wide open and up against the wall, and I like that type of racing, so I love going up there. To me, it's way better than going to Salina or 81. I mean, I like that style of racing where you just, if you got more guts than the other guy and you're willing to put it on the floor and get right up against the guardrail, you're probably going to do pretty well up there.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love it up there. So anybody that has a midget or anything looking for a driver, you call me, I'll go. I'll go drive it.
You mentioned going to Pocono, and you're probably running 180 down the backstretch.
Yeah, we going into turn 1. You're going about 208 or something.
Okay, and now you go to Belleville, and you're probably running 100 on dirt. Is there any comparison? I mean, does it, like running 200 at Pocono, does it really feel like you're going that fast?
Turn 1 at Pocono, you got those giant, they got those giant billboards.
Okay.
And they count down 5, 4, 3, and those things go by just like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Can you read them?
So
are you going?
You can't really read them,
but
you see them go do 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 do.
Really?
And so you realize how fast you're going, and you're clipping when you go into turn 1. And Pocono is one of those races that on TV it's kind of boring, but it's fun to drive.
Really?
It's fun to drive Pocono. So.
Did you do the shifting gears and all that? Did you shift while you were
We didn't. The way that the rules are set up in ARCA, you can't shift.
You couldn't shift.
Yeah, you can't
Okay.
shift in ARCA.
Okay.
So we did not shift there. But actually, some of the places where you really, like a place like Salem, Indiana, where it's half a mile,
Okay.
but it's really high.
High bank,
it's like
yep.
34 degrees banking, so it's like the same as like a Bristol.
Kind of like a Bristol.
And you
okay.
run right up against the wall, but it is rough.
Oh, yeah.
It's like racing out in the parking lot out here. I mean, it is rough. And at the end of that race, I actually had the next day I was black and blue right here from my Hans device.
Oh, the Hans, really?
It was black and blue just from getting beat. And we didn't wreck. We finished 12th. And it was one of those where we had to replace everything on the car except for the roof, because it was just destroyed. And we finished on the lead lap. We finished 12th, and the car was just tore all to pieces.
Wow.
And that you feel like you're going faster there than you do at a place like Kansas, because you're a half-mile track. You're going like 14-second laps. I mean, you're clipping there.
Wow.
But yeah, I love going to Belleville. It's my favorite track on the schedule. I look forward to those 2 races, and I don't know. I may be different than a lot of guys don't necessarily maybe like to go up there, but I just think it's great. I love going up there, and I don't think that we're going that fast. But I also got myself in trouble up there because I didn't think I was going that fast, and I didn't lift, and then I ended up having to work on the car for a week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's another thing about Belleville. You don't get in a little wreck there.
Right.
It's usually a big one.
But
Yeah.
it's one of those deals where
Yep.
they dropped the green flag, and everybody else. I expected everybody to go to the top, and they didn't. They dropped the green flag, and everybody just stayed on the bottom. And I was like, so I went to the top, and I was just passing people like crazy. And then the car wasn't handling quite right, and then like you said, you're in trouble, and you don't have any time, and you're gone. And next thing you know,
there,
we were up and over, and but no big deal. We got it fixed, and that's part of it. But I was ready to go back. I would have went back the next week. I think that place is just a ton of fun.
Cool.
Yeah, let's put this into perspective here. You went out of the park at Belleville, and usually when somebody goes out of the park at Belleville, it's a bad deal. I was standing on the catwalk, and you ended up just at the end of the catwalk on the other side of the fence where you shouldn't have been, on all four wheels, which is really unheard of at Belleville too. I don't know how you pulled that off, but I know the car had sustained some damage. I don't know quite how much, but yeah, you were sailing.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be okay. I got it. My dad was standing there because they were all up on the catwalk, and the right side of the car with the body on and everything didn't look that bad. And he said, well, it doesn't look that bad over here. So I thought, well, hey, I might be able to get back out there. So I jumped out real quick, and I thought, because it was still running when I went over, because I was still, on the gas, because I was staying I actually stayed in the throttle when I realized that I was not going to be able to keep it. So I stayed on the floor because I was trying to clear the fence instead of having it clip me and actually tumble. So I was trying to clear it. And so I thought, well, if the right side's okay, then maybe the left side's okay, and they can open this gate, and I can just go right back out there. And was what I was thinking.
How'd that work out?
And when I went over, the left rears travel so far that when the left rear went down and it caught the guardrail, and it ripped all the bars out of the car, ripped the drive line out. And so when I saw that, I was like, well, we're done.
Yep.
But my initial thinking was, if the right side of the car is okay,
this ain't so
this
bad.
thing was still steering. I just couldn't stop it because we hit that grass. So my initial thinking was, they just open that gate, I'll start this thing right back up. I'll just go right back out there. And what was funny, it was pretty funny. It wasn't funny then. It's pretty funny now. Everybody really but one person thinks it's funny. When I stopped sliding, my wife was just starting to walk up there. So when I stopped sliding and actually stopped, she was standing at the bottom of the stairs. So she was like right there. She was like right where that she was like right where that computer was, and she was just standing there with her hands on her hips, just shaking her head. So I just waved at her like, I'm fine, like I'm fine. And she was just shaking her head. So then I hopped out, and my two crew guys were okay, right there. So I told them to pull. I said, well, take the hood off and make sure that the front end's okay. We'll go back out there. And then she was like, so she just walked off because she heard me say that. And then one of my other crew guys, and then my other crew guy, Roy, he had come down, and then he heard me tell one of my other crew guys that the rear end's ripped out. We're done. So then when he heard me say that, he went back to the truck and started the grill and started cooking chicken. And so she came down, Ryan came down and ate with us afterwards and whatever. And so after, like, the next day, we're standing along and we're all talking about it, and Roy was there, and she's like, Roy, I don't understand how you just walked down out of the stands and started cooking chicken like nothing happened. And he said, well, I heard Jeremy say that the rear end got ripped out of the car. And he said, I was hungry, and I figured that he would be hungry. And so, I started cooking chicken.
Good thing you didn't cook that chicken before. It would have been really bad.
Right. And I was like, and I said, yeah, I was hungry. And so he was like, why not? And she just was like, you guys are crazy. All you guys are crazy.
Do you have any superstitions?
I don't really have any superstitions per se, but I guess you could say I have a routine. Like I do the same.
I mean, you don't
thing.
like wear the same pair of underwear and
no,
stuff like that.
I don't do that. But I do the same. Like I do the same thing.
You have a little
the
routine.
Same order.
Do you?
Like I'll walk out of the hauler the same way, and I get in the car, put my belts on the same. Like,
Really?
and if I screw something up, I'll start all over.
Really?
And it's more like a safety, so I don't miss a belt or do something like that. But no, I don't wear the same stuff or anything like that. Anything like that.
We had a little issue this summer, and I want to ask you if you've ever had this happen, because I know it was kind of scary for Brian, but he's been racing, 15, 16 years. Never, ever once has he had his belts come undone. Have you ever had that happen?
I don't think I have.
You don't
I don't think I have had my belts come undone.
He Yeah, he went into turn one, and he didn't know if he didn't get him latched good or caught it, but he felt him, come undone. Of course, he pulled up to the top of the track and stopped and got him hooked back up. But he said that was a pretty scary feeling.
Yeah, I had the throttle stick on me one time at an ARCA race.
Really?
During qualifying.
Oh God!
And I got it shut off and coasted back. It was on my warm-up lap, so I shut it off and coasted back in. And I didn't take the green, so they got it fixed. And you got 4 minutes or whatever. And since I didn't take the green, that lap didn't count, so they got it fixed, and we was able to go back.
What caused to get cable?
It was actually something inside the cockpit had slid down,
Really?
or something had slid under the dash. I don't remember exactly what it was, but
Do they have a cable? Are they cable operated, or does it have a linkage that
it's
runs
the
through the fire?
same type setup that this.
So it has a
on
linkage
cars.
that
Yeah,
runs
it's a
through the
linkage.
firewall and
Yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah.
something caught, huh?
So that's the main. That's the main deal. Of course, it's one of those deals where NASCAR and ARC and everything, they got the kill button on the steering wheel and all that stuff, but you don't grow up racing with that, so you don't. It never even crossed my mind to
that it
push
was
little
there,
button
huh?
on, so I reach for the dash and hit it the same way that you always do.
Huh.
So they put all those features in there, but those features don't.
Yeah, you don't think quick enough. Yeah.
They don't cross your mind.
You ever had any fire issues? Anything catch on
No,
fire?
I had a little fire testing one time, but never in the race, that type of deal. Really been pretty fortunate as far as that stuff goes, but I don't. We all waste a lot of money racing, but that's one thing that I don't. I've always, even from the time I started, I got top of the line helmet and top of the line Hans and ridiculously expensive fire suit and seat, and
It's not a bad money to waste. not a
no,
bad thing to
I
waste your
spend
money
a
on.
lot of money on safety stuff. There's
Yeah.
nothing out there. Anybody around here has nothing better than. I wear the underwear. I wear 3-piece fire suit. The gloves, the shoes, the socks, and I wear a seat that's built specifically to me, all measured to me. I've got a $2,000 seat in a late model, and so I spend that money. It's one of those deals where you spend all the money that you can. You buy the best stuff that's out there, and if something happens, but you do everything you can to prevent it.
Yeah.
And I don't cut any. I cut a lot of corners on that stuff, but I don't cut any corners
on
on
that. Yeah.
safety.
That's a good idea.
That's the reason, and you've mentioned him a couple of times. Ryan's with us tonight. That's the reason Ryan wears that retired. It was a suit that was worn one time. It's a NASCAR suit. It's a 3-piece suit. That's the reason he wears that, because that's the best protection you can buy for the money, even though it's been worn one other time. But we got that for him for Christmas one year, because when it comes to safety and stuff like that, you can't spend too much.
Yeah, I wear, even like my helmet has got I got the helmet sock on it, and I do all that stuff. So, I may go a little bit overboard on some of that stuff, but it's one of those deals where, like I went up and over the wall at Belleville, and it had that turned out a little bit different. And had I got hurt during that deal, at least I can say that I did everything that I can do prior to that to make my car as safe as I can. And, if you get hurt, you get hurt. One of those things. Obviously you can get hurt doing other things. So, it's just one of them deals.
Yeah. You never know.
We're getting close to winding up this thing and running out of time for this evening. We could probably go a little bit longer, but, racing is inherently dangerous. And you're on the threshold of maybe getting to where a lot of us want to go as far as getting into NASCAR. But at this stage of the game, you still have a job to go to Monday morning. It may be Jeremy Petty Incorporated. It may be pitboxes.com, but you still have a place you have to get to work to provide for your family. And that's why we take so many precautions when it comes to safety.
Yeah, it's just one of them deals too. I don't, I really don't worry about it. I really don't think about it. I get in the car and race, and if you get hurt, you get hurt. And if you're worried about getting hurt, then you shouldn't be racing. Right. It's just one of them deals. You know what I mean? It's probably going to happen at some point in time. And if you're worried about it, then don't do it. Right. Go pick something else to do. you buy all the safest stuff you can, and that's the best thing for prevention that you can do. But it's just one of them deals where I don't worry about it. That's just part of the game, and that's what it's part of it. I like going to the bigger, faster tracks. I like going to Belleville. I would love to go to Eldora and Bulls Gap and places like that. And it's just, to be honest with you, I never. We've been kind of laughing and stuff. I hurt myself racing go-karts a couple weeks ago, but it just even like that, when the guys all came up and they said, let's go race go-karts, I never thought, hey, I could get hurt doing this. It never crossed my mind. I mean, it's kind of funny now, but I never even thought that, even though we were going to race, it never once entered my mind that I could get hurt racing go-kart. You just don't think about it.
Especially when there's only 2 of you out there.
Yeah, well, there was 6. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't hear that part. I thought there was only 2.
I never thought about it. The thought never entered my mind that, maybe you might get hurt. It was just like, let's go race go-karts.
It all went bad.
It's just one of them deals.
Yeah.
You could fall down the stairs. You can get hurt doing anything. So I'm going to do what I like to do. And if I get hurt, at least I can say, well, I was having fun.
Yep. Might piss the wife off, but.
Yeah. And you are still wearing a boot, and she had to come take you to the hospital for the deal with the go-kart thing. But, my point was, we just take the precautions so that we're safe inside there and keep on going. I mean, nobody thinks about it, because you're right. If you think about it, you wouldn't want to do it. It'd take all the fun out of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just part of it. And she's going to get mad at me for stuff anyway, so it might as well be doing stuff that I want to be doing other than stuff I don't want to be doing.
Wait a few years till you have your kid out there
Right.
with you.
Exactly.
She's really gonna get pissed.
That's the thing, That's why I bought that suit, because as a parent, to watch him race, it's kind of hard sometimes. I mean, I know that you can get hurt. I don't think he's gonna get hurt. I wouldn't put him out there. I'd tell him to go play baseball or something like that. But no, you just take the precautions you can and keep on going. It's fun.
Yeah, I have a blast doing it. So and it's probably more of a stressor and a concern for family members than it is for me. I never think about it. It's just not a concern. My mom doesn't go to very many races. She goes to some of them, but it's probably more of a stressor for her and Brooke than it is for me and my dad. We love doing it. We go out and have a blast, and if you get hurt, you get hurt. Whatever. They put me back together before they can do it again.
Yeah, and speaking of getting hurt in a race car, your grandpa, he went through a lot, and he kept on going.
Yeah, it's just what it's what
Yep.
I don't know. It's what we do, I guess.
Yep.
What else we
That's
do?
it. Yep.
Bobby, any final thoughts as we wrap up the first one? A couple of technical difficulties, a little later than what we wanted to be tonight, but any other final thoughts? Any other questions for Jeremy as we wrap this up?
Don't think so. I just want to thank him for, coming over tonight. When you and I talked about putting this, we were going to try to do this, Jeremy was the first one that came to my mind, because I knew he would spend a whole hour talking.
Sure.
I knew he would have a lot to say. So just want to thank him for coming over tonight and visiting a little bit, and